Hello. Sorry about that. I want to talk about something that is actually kind of personal for me, but it's something that I'm working on, but I just want to share it because I just like to share what I'm thinking on this channel. So I'm going to talk about how, what mistakes were you actually supposed to make? Which mistake is better than the other? That's what I want to ask. Which mistake is better than the other mistake? Would you be a better person if you made a different mistake? Hold on a second. I'm outside again, this place. I always like coming outside here. Hold on one second. Sorry. I know I do that. Yeah, but which mistake is better than the other? And the reason why I ask that because I see a lot of people online, offline, or wherever, just in life in general, right? Whether it's family, whether it's church. I don't go to church. I'm not a Christian, but I'm just saying whether it's church, because they condemn you the most for not being perfect, don't they? Just my experience in going to church, you just really wasn't supposed to not fit in that box, okay? Right? But my question is like when you have people criticize others for certain mistakes, okay, well, how did their life turn out and which mistakes they make that makes them look better than me, right? Like you get people that want to ask the question or criticize others, and not a particular person, just in general, people like to do this. And like to criticize, well, you shouldn't have done this in the first place. Well, you should. You know how people say that. I see if you say that because somebody did something to you to make you angry. Okay, now you're kind of speaking out of frustration or anger. That's kind of something different right there. I'm talking about completely judging somebody for whatever the experience is in life, right? Not getting mad because somebody did something to cross you, or to cause you to try to cause lack in your life or depletion in some kind of way. So yeah, in that case, yeah, you have a right to stick up for yourself. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just in general, like say for anxiety, just for example. Well, why do you have anxiety? You know, why is this? Why you criticize why you have anxiety in the first place? Well, if you have it, that means that you don't have faith. You lack. Well, yes, something is lacking if you have anxiety. Something is lacking if you have fear, and we see a whole lot of fear these days. I don't really see anybody who can talk about fear these days. I just don't see it. After 2020, I don't really see anybody who can criticize somebody else for having fear because I've seen a whole lot of fear going on. Right? Especially in the United States of America. I've seen a lot of people play ball so they can get whatever they think they want out of life and they can feel comfortable. I've seen a lot of people play ball. I didn't play ball and I've been very uncomfortable because I did not play ball. So I've been pretty uncomfortable. But you know, that's how you kind of have to just go through things to really probably do what you're supposed to do, right? Yeah. Hold on, let me take a drink of water right quick. Yeah, so I just see it quite a bit where people just want to put you down for like some decision that you made, even if it was bad, even if it got you in a bad position, even if it got you messed up. They might say, well, you shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. You should have been doing this in the first place. Well, yeah, if you hadn't done that, maybe it wouldn't have got you where you are. But at the same time, what other mistake might you have made if it wasn't that one? What I'm saying is what mistake is going to be better than the other. Now, some mistakes you don't want to make, though. Some you don't want to make. But for the most part, you know, if you didn't make that mistake, which other mistake would you have made? Because here's the thing that I've learned. Living in regret and constantly beating yourself up is only going to just increase the negativity that you already have to deal with, right? It's only going to increase the negativity that you already have to deal with. It's going to only increase your shadow, right? It's only going to increase your shadow self, constantly judging yourself and judging whatever decision you made and judging your experience. Now, see if you beat yourself up, because I have a hard time with this too. If you're in a situation and it's hard to get out of, and it could be a spiritual type of situation, not just something that you would think is physical, but it's spiritual, where you can't put your hand on it. Okay, so the only way to get out of it is this, it's deep, right? I can see kind of beating yourself up if it's a situation where it looks like you're just not going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so you kind of keep beating yourself up, but still you don't want to do that either, because what I learned from even doing that, even if you made a mistake and it seemed like you ain't never going to get out of it, and so you keep beating yourself up and up, wishing you can relive that time over again so you won't have to make that same mistake. But the problem is, if you want to relive a particular time over again so you don't make that mistake, what you're going to need is wisdom. You're going to need more wisdom than you had during that time. If you don't want to relive that particular, you don't want to make that same mistake, then you're going to need more wisdom than you had at that time. And not only just to avoid that particular mistake you made, but to try to maybe avoid other mistakes that might be just as bad. You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, the things that we do and mistakes we make us wiser. That's true. But when you have a chance to use common sense, use common sense. When you have a chance, and it's a lot of us that don't use it when we have the chance to, right? When your intuition is trying to tell you something, and you believe it's your intuition, don't go against it. And sometimes we get our butts kicked, because we need to learn to listen to our intuition and not go the other way. Our intuition constantly try to tell us something. We don't listen. So sometimes we get our butts kicked until we learn to trust ourselves and say, yeah, that's what our intuition said. You got to learn to trust yourself. You go against it with some other little egoic excuse to go against your intuition. But with that being said, you still don't want to beat yourself up if you ignored your intuition, which many of us have. Even some of the people that seem the wisest probably became the wisest because a lot of things that went on in their life. And then maybe not. You never know. Maybe they just was like that. But even within, if you going through something because you failed to listen to your intuition, because you didn't trust it, and because you still have a lot of ego, right? And so you didn't listen to it. But even with that, okay, I can see if you're upset with yourself and kind of beating yourself up for a little while, because that's kind of human nature. But even after that, you don't want to keep beating yourself up for long, because now you got it. You see the mistakes you made. You see where you went wrong. You see where you could have did this, because now you're at a place in your life where you're wiser. So even if you're at a place where you're wiser, then you should know not to continually dwell on something and beat yourself up over a decision you made because you didn't listen to yourself. And other things that people go through in life, right? You can't, it's hard to determine which mistake is better than the other. Like if somebody run a red light, why you run the red light? Well, they can say they didn't see it. I mean, some people just run red light, so then they can just say, oh, I don't know where my mind was. I don't know where my mind was, and sometimes that happens. And then another person might not get how you just missed the red light. How could your mind be somewhere else, and how could you miss it? But it's like, you can't. Okay, so if you shouldn't have made that mistake, then which mistake do you want to pick? And sometimes mistakes are better than others. I'm gonna just say that too. Some mistakes are seen as better than others, but I'm talking about in a spiritual type of sense, not talking about physical. And some mistakes in the physical world can have you messed up more than other little mistakes. And sometimes some mistakes that you make could be really bad, but then you might have got lucky. It's kind of all about your universe, to be honest with you. It's kind of all about your universe. It's mistakes that I made that somebody else did the same thing, and it got them losing their license and stuff. Okay, so it's sometimes it's about luck, and it's mistakes that somebody else made that I made, and it got me messed up for almost a year, and they kind of got away with it. So I think it's all about your own personal universe and what your soul and your true self has constructed for you, right? It's all about that. But yeah, who's to say that And another thing I want to bring up again is the time loop. A lot of people are unaware that they are participating in the time loop, and even when you are aware that you participate in the time loop, you have to practice awareness daily. You have to ask yourself, I'm just not thinking about this to do for myself now. So I'm not just talking to you, I'm kind of preaching to myself now. If I'm aware I'm in a time loop, and I have to ask myself, with every step that I make, even if you're going to a gas station, even if you're going to the grocery store, whatever it is, you ask yourself, did I do this exact thing already? Did I do this exact thing already? It's like you have to constantly stay in a state of awareness, because some of the mistakes that you make or some of the things that you do could be already pre-recorded. It could have been already something that's pre-recorded, but we're lagging behind and we're mad at whatever mistake we think we made. But that's already been done, because a lot of us that's in a time loop, or a lot of people that's in a time loop, they don't realize that they did this already. So the only mistake that they're making is making the same mistake over and over again, not realizing that they're in a time loop and history keeps repeating itself. There is a saying called insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But I don't think that's just, as I'm talking, that saying changes for me in different stages of my life. Because right now that saying means to me that I've probably done that same thing a couple of times already. If I'm in a time loop and I'm like maybe 20 years behind, I probably did that same thing about 2 or 3 times already. So that's insanity right there. Not necessarily just doing something or making a mistake and then tomorrow you do it, then the next week you do it, and it's like, yeah, that's insanity too. But it's also not realizing that I've already lived this exact script already, and I'm just following a script, and I don't realize it because I don't have the awareness of it. Okay, I don't have the awareness to connect to whoever I am in a supposed future, which is really might not be the future. It could be current time, and I'm lagging behind. So that's insanity, to keep you going by a script and trying to figure out, okay, and not realizing that you did this 3 or 4 times, right? And with that being said, when you realize it like that you're in a time loop and you're kind of repeating the same thing you already did, and then that's why I said the only mistake is just not being aware that you're doing the same thing. That could be the only mistake, because whatever mistake you think you made, you already did it. You already did it, and you just like being repetitive, doing it over and over again. It's like watching the same movie over and over again. It's going to be the same. People are going to say the same things in the movie. I remember when I was a little girl, when Coming to America came out, and I went to see it in the movies, and then I saw it on what they had VHS tapes back then. And I remember being a little girl, and I watched that movie over and over and over again. Ain't nothing changed. They said the script was still the same. The people will still look the same. Okay, so that's what I'm saying is that when we make mistakes and we don't realize that it's a part of a time loop and we already made that mistake, the only thing we need to understand is that time loop, and how do we kind of raise our awareness above whatever that is. Okay, instead of kind of beating yourself up over something that you probably did 3 times, but you keep doing the same thing over and over again because you're stuck in a loop. Anyway, I just wanted to briefly say that. I don't have anything else to say. I didn't know I was going to get into the time loop, but that's why I don't write anything down. I just talk. Because the main thing I was just going to talk about is people like to judge. People like to be the judge, and people like to be the judge of what they feel like, whatever mistakes you should have made, right? And I see that a lot. About, well, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have been, you were stupid. Well, you were dumb. You were dumb to do that. You were this. Okay, well, which mistake did you ever make that's going to be better? Which mistake do you want to pick? Or who do you want to be? So you don't make the mistakes that you made, since you're so stupid for making the mistakes. And when I say you so stupid, I'm speaking in general of how people talk to others, right? How people who like to judge talk to others. I'm not calling the people who listen to stupid. But what I'm saying is that, okay, so who else are you supposed to be, since you're so stupid and the mistakes you make are so stupid? And you don't need to make no excuses for why you made mistakes, which is, I don't like to make a bunch of excuses. But I do want to say, clearly I'm not a perfect person, else I wouldn't have done it. That's clear, right? Even if it was my intuition that tried to tell me something was wrong why I didn't trust it, that means your ego was too big. To me, that means your ego was too big, right? But who else? If the mistakes that I made, because, God dang it, sorry, I'm outside. Because this is the part of why people, this is what caused the shadow to grow even more, okay, that negative aspect. Who am I supposed to be, and what mistakes did they make that was better than mine? Okay. But anyway, this was just a little small conversation, this small talk I want to have, because I was just thinking about it to myself. When I hear people on the internet, I can just hear people in real life, just in general. I just hear how they want to just want to judge each other. Well, you stupid, you shouldn't, you this and you that, you know. And I got out of doing that, because when I look at myself and the things I've done, I just have to say, well, they made that particular mistake. That's something they did. Just because it's not something I did, don't mean that I don't mess up. I just didn't mess up in the way they did, but I still mess up. And this is what people don't get. It's like, just because that person did something that you would not do, doesn't mean that your flaws are any better than theirs. And this is something I learned from messing up, and from getting, a good spanking, a good spiritual spanking from messing up, because I got a good spiritual spanking from messing up. And I got to the point where, okay, well, I see somebody else do something. Now, if it's towards me, yeah, you want to, first of all, I'm getting to the point where I want to see if this is a part of a time loop. Because if it's a part of a time loop, I want to know how I handled it and how I can do things a little differently. So that's how I'm looking at it now. But other than that, it's almost like, okay, well, yeah, they did something that I don't agree with. They did something that I probably wouldn't do. Okay. But at the same time, I've done things that they probably would not do. So what makes their flaws worse than mine? So what makes my flaws worse than theirs? That's what I'm saying. So who can sit there and say, well, you shouldn't have been so dumb to do that anyway? That's your dumb ass fault. I mean, a lot of people like to do that. Not probably a lot of brown people, but people in general, that's your dumb ass fault. Just abusive to people for not being... it's like, okay, well, what mistakes did you... I want to be you. I want to be you when I grow up. So what mistakes did you make in life? Because I want your mistakes. Your mistakes were better than mine. I want your mistakes, because your mistakes are perfect. Give me your mistakes. Since I was a dumbass, then I want to be you. So your mistakes are better than everybody else's. Okay? But anyway, that's it. And when people want to keep going on with the dumbass and all, unless something happened to them and they just getting angry, just to call people just all kind of names over whatever decision they make when they not really bothering you, there's somebody who I don't know what to call that. I'm not a psychologist, okay, but something is up with that. I find something to be wrong with that. Okay, like I say, somebody did something to you, anybody, just natural human nature, to get upset and say something to the person, maybe go off a little bit because they, what you call it? What's the word? It's like it got your attention. I forget the word for it now. I'm swiping these flies away. But, yeah, it's like they struck a nerve or something. But that's not the word I'm looking for. But they struck a nerve in you. So they strike a nerve in you, then you respond and react out of just somebody striking a nerve, and you almost like black out a little bit. But so everybody, I believe, got something like that going on. But just to be picking with people and judging every decision somebody else make because you're not doing the same thing that they're doing, or you might be making the exact same mistake they're making. I find something wrong with that. Hold on a second. I find something to be wrong with that, just to sit and judge folks for whatever they're doing. that's not perfect. Okay, so all these people need to look to you, and they need to strive to be you then. And whatever mistakes you made, they need to just hate their mistakes and want to make all your mistakes because your mistakes have been perfect. Something wrong with that. But anyway, I'll talk later. Okay.